And same idea with like the blacksmithing house too. Like the blacksmithing house, I changed a little bit of the inside, but more so it's the outside blocks. Like sometimes I'd rather change it to stone brick or something else. And now with the current session, I don't think it's up. I don't think it's going up now, but the one I just recorded. We do have something brand new and cool, but I have to do a little bit of maintenance on that. I'm going to be doing that a little bit later after recording this, of course, so though I can do maintenance on that and figure out what happened. Why is it broken? What broke about it? And I'm wondering if it's because of the Pixelmon versions. Like, it went from, what was the version I played originally? I think it was like 8.2 or something like that. Or 8.3 or whatever, and now it's like 8.4. So it's like, did it corrupt itself because of the different version? Or is it something else? So I'm trying to figure out, like, what's going on here. So it's like, by all means, like, it's gonna get done, but, like, I gotta go and figure out, like, what actually happened, fix it. I'm gonna fix it in creative mode because of the fact that, like, while I hate to do a lot of things in creative mode for the server, I mean, there's only like one teleport location that I actually use spectator mode, but I'm gonna go fix that maybe too, so we don't have to keep doing that. But again, for its creation, like, I'm gonna use creative mode to fix it because it shouldn't have been broken in the first place, if that makes sense. Like, it was broken, but it shouldn't have been. And that's like it's a very sad thing to see, though, is that, like, when you're trying to get something to work and then you see something that breaks and you're like, wait, how did that break? It's really sad. It's the same thing with what happens when I make something new in Oblivion script, where, like, I go and look at the code and I'm like, okay, I know how this is supposed to work, and then when you try it and then it doesn't work, it's like, wait, how come it's not working the way I intended it? Like, I look at the code, it's like, it looks perfect, but why isn't it working? And this is why it's like, for that kind of stuff, though, it's always really good to have a second pair of eyes that looks at it. Because while your eyes are, I don't want to say aren't trained enough to be able to see it, but like you're illusioned into seeing that it works perfectly fine. And then they're not. They're just looking at a random piece of code, right? They're just looking at a random piece of code going like, here's the error, here's the error, here's the error. So it's a good tool. It's more of like, you're asking them to sort of debug what's going on kind of thing. I mean, like, the one interaction that I was really confused of was the whole turning from the, like, if you were to hold the, I don't think this would spoil it because technically I used it in the current uploads of, or the current uploads of the Oblivion modded playthrough, so you should be fine. But the current version of the Dragon Lord armor, for instance, like, so at first what I wanted to do was that I wanted to give the Dragon Lord the speed script, although I think I originally said that I wasn't going to do it because, well, this one was supposed to be before and then now it's the after, but, like, I chose against that because the speed thing is really, really hurtful. So I chose to give the armor that ability. However, it had a little bit of an issue when you combined it with the Dark King's armor. So what happened was that what's supposed to happen is that when the Dragon Lord's armor is being unequipped... Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Is that when the Dragon Lord's armor is being unequipped for the Dark King's armor, I thought it would happen instantaneously. Which it might, but because of the way that the script works, it goes through different stages. So I'm going to explain a little bit of how the Dragon Lord's armor works, so you get a better idea of what the issue actually is, kind of thing. So when you equip the armor, it grabs what your current speed is, which is similar to how the Dark King's armor works. If you have the appropriate orb attached, they both grab the same value. They both grab what your current speed is, so that it stores it as a value that it can use later on. So when you go ahead and start walking, it suppresses your speed down to 50. Which is good, because that's exactly what it's supposed to do. It suppresses your speed down to 50, so it looks like you can actually walk, rather than pretending that you're just... So instead of you walking down the stairs and then just sort of making like a small jump because the physics engine in Oblivion, you're just sort of just slowly tripping yourself over and over again. Because that's what it looks like, pretty much. So instead of that, that's why I designed this code to be, is that like you actually walk when you toggle walking instead of running. Now that part of the script was working fine, but it was when it was being unequipped. So when you unequip the Dragon Lord's armor, it's supposed to revert your speed back to normal if you were walking before it finished. So if your character is walking, because your speed is at 50, it needs to reverse that. Right? So that's the first thing that it does, is that it reverses whatever it needs to be done. So whatever you suppressed it with, you need to now, like, regain it. So that part was working fine. And then what it's supposed to do after the fact is unequip everything, and then it's supposed to, like, it removes all the spells and all the active abilities and stuff like that. And then after that, what it's supposed to do is that it is supposed to change the run value down to 0, so that the next time you equip it, let's say, if you've gained 2 speed, it's not going to go and reduce your speed by 2 because it remembers from previous, right? It now remembers the new value, which apparently was a great oversight I made early on, because apparently I didn't make it do that. I didn't make it grab a new value, so oops. But now it does do that, so that's probably why my character speed was so down. Anyway. So besides that, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. But for the armor, it changes that value down to 0. Alright, so when you unequip the armor, it changes that value to 0. Very, very problematic, but nothing too major. So what happens if you equip the armor in the hood? Well, what's normally supposed to happen is that when you unequip the armor and then the hood itself, the interaction that it was first having was that, like, it would reduce your speed down to what was it? It would reduce your speed down to, like, if you normally started with 100 speed, it would reduce it down to 80 speed. And I was really confused by what it was doing, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Because the one that gives you that increases your speed and all that stuff is the what is it? What is it? Oh, what is it? I can't remember. What was it again? yeah, so like I was trying to figure out what was wrong with that, and apparently it was conflicting with the armor, apparently, while doing so. So I was trying to figure out why it was doing that. And I was asking someone to help me try and clarify this, and he was trying to get me to rebuild the entire thing from scratch, and I was like, it's not that kind of problem. It's more of an interaction that I don't understand what's going on. And then later on I solved it because I took a double look and I figured out what could be the issue, and then it was fixed. And then I thought of a random scenario in which somebody who uses the Dark Dragon Lord's armor runs around, you know, doing whatever, and then they're like, okay, I need to use the Dark King's armor. They cast the spell to go and be the Dark King, and now your speed is down by 20. And now we have a new issue. Well, that doesn't make any sense because they're using the same script. So what's going on? Well, how I had the... wasn't revert, it was conjure, sorry. I'm thinking revert is the one that's causing the armor to appear, but it's not. But for conjure, what it does is that it gives you the weapon first, I believe. Hang on. I remember the rotation for the most part. I don't remember everything about it though. It's... oops, that's not the one. That's the one. Yeah, it's the sword first, and then it was the armor, and then it was the hood. Now, remember what I said about how the run value works? Well, when the Dragon Lord's armor gets unequipped, it reverts it to 0. And then what happens is that the next piece after the armor is added to your inventory and then equipped, it is the hood, which then removes 20 of that, which removes 20 of the value because of the fact that the hoods give you a active ability that boosts all of your attributes, and I think it also boosts magic. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what the magic is, but I know for the attributes it's 20, so that's why you have to add 20 with the hood kind of thing. Now, you don't technically need to do that with the Dark King's armor because the orb that stores the value is added on after all of that, like after the blade, the hood, the armor is added to your inventory and equipped. So they're like added on after the fact. And because they're added on after the fact, you don't need to worry about them. So you're good to go. Okay. So yeah, so figuring out a solution for that problem was actually really interesting. It reminds me of how I had to create, how to add Soul Link to the player if they didn't grab the Dark King's Heart, or they didn't grab the Eternal Darkness Tome, or whatever. Like, if they didn't grab that item in order to gain Soul Link themselves. So I had to go and give Soul Link to other, like, sort of parties, so though at the very least you can still interact with that stuff. Sorry, trying to remember where to go. I think it's this. No, it's not that. I think it's this. Yeah. Oh, goody. Yeah, I do have a rare Pokemon. It's called a legendary bird called Ho-Oh. You're not going to be strong enough to deal with it, though. But yeah, so like that's the kind of thing though that I was sort of like that's the kind of thing that I had to deal with though when I was trying to figure out like different solutions to the problem that I was having. And it was not fun to try and figure out a solution to the Dragon Lord's armor and hood and stuff because of that fact. Also, the other thing that I had a huge problem with was how it was I think it was the shield and the sword itself. That was the most difficult thing to ever figure out what was going on. So all 4 pieces of the armor